We're almost there. Okay, Mayor Beamish, you're ready to proceed.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of council for February 1, 2022, the year of the tiger. Officially starts tonight, so we can celebrate. I've got my celebration clothes on, so I hope everybody else has some. There you go, good. Just put that right on your forehead, you'll be fine. Okay, and we're holding the meeting electronically again, and honored to gather on the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. I will call the meeting to order, time being about 7:02. Before we do approval of the agenda, there'll be a couple of changes. For those of you who have the recent agenda, we wanted to make sure that 6.1, the delegation with Jenny Wright of the Aquarium's Curator, Nicola Sontag Marine Center, is on there as a delegation. We're also going to move up 11.2, which is Mayor Darnell Seegers of the Disc of Seashell, and that's going to be, I think it's going to be her and or members of her team are going to make a presentation on the poverty reduction strategy and the grant application. And rather than make them wait until we go through all of the business, we'll bring them up to there. Are there any other changes to the agenda, Council? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for approval of the agenda as amended. Councilor Kroll, Councilor D'Andrade, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. I'd also ask for under 3.1 for adoption of the minutes from the January 18, 22 council meeting. Councilor D'Andrade, Councilor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Now a motion to receive all reports, correspondence, and minutes on the agenda. Motion, Councilor Lumley, Councilor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. Trying to get some balance here. So everybody was at the meeting tonight. So that being said, and is there any business arising from the minutes of the January 18, 2022 meeting that anybody would like to bring forward? No, okay, seeing none, we'll go firstly then to a Toastmasters Club, and this is going to be the proclamation declaring February 22 to be known as Toastmasters Month in Gibsons. Is somebody here to speak to that? Rebecca, is there anybody in the audience who speak to that?
Sorry, Mayor Beamish, I was talking and I was muted. Just one moment while I move over.
And then could you also put the share your screen with the copy of the proclamation?
Lisa, do you have the copy of the proclamation? Can you forward it?
I do. I can share the screen if you'd like.
Oh, that would be great. And who? And I'm sorry, I believe
Johanna.
Johanna, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Colton.
There's Johanna joining you now, Mayor Beamish.
Johanna, good evening. I'll let you make your introduction and then I will read out the proclamation. Tell us about the club. You're still muted on my screen. There you are. Nope. There you are. Hey.
Good evening, Mayor Beamish,
Yeah.
town councillors, and members of the community. Thank you so much for the proclamation of Toastmasters Month 2022. My name is Joanna Jepa, and I have been a Toastmaster for 10 years, and I have benefited from the program, the communication and leadership skills that have been developed. And now recently with more Zoom meetings, we've learned new skills, how to connect through our workplaces and connecting with families. currently, all the Toastmaster clubs around the world and locally are preparing for the International Speech Contest. And our local area, Sunshine Coast, will be having that contest online February 19th at 1 p.m.
Good.
And my home club is the Beachcombers Advanced. If you would like to go to the website, you can contact me there. We have our Beachcomber meeting next on Valentine's evening.
Yeah.
So we would welcome you all to come. So opening up all these doors of opportunities has been my Toastmasters journey that I love sharing with everyone. So thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you, Joanna. How many members are in your club?
In my club, we have 9 members.
9 members.
And with,
Yeah.
with the pandemic, we have members coming from other parts of the world, interestingly, but it has been a real change going online.
I remember years ago when I was growing up, my father was a Toastmaster, and he used to go to regular meetings, and it really benefited him. I know that. So it's a great opportunity for people to get involved and to learn and experience. Well, thank you for that. Okay, we have a proclamation which I'll read. Office of the Mayor, William Beamish, in recognition of Toastmasters Month. Whereas Toastmasters International, a nonprofit educational organization, is a leader in making effective oral communications a national and international reality for all persons. And whereas the ability to speak clearly and effectively is a powerful and important skill that can help individuals overcome barriers to effective performance in virtually every endeavor, professional or personal. And whereas Toastmasters programs help people develop skills in speaking, listening, giving feedback, decision-making, effective meeting management, delegating, and mentoring, vital skills that promote self-actualization, enhance leadership potential, foster human understanding, and contribute to the betterment of mankind. And whereas there are 4 active Toastmaster clubs on the Sunshine Coast that meet regularly to continue to promote the goals, vision, mission, and core values of Toastmasters International, now therefore I, William Beamish, Mayor of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim that the month of February 2022 be known as Toastmasters Month in the town of Gibsons. Proclamation 2022-01, February 1, 2022. Well, thank you very much, Joanna. We will make sure a signed copy of this gets sent to you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. So moving forward with the agenda, we have section 6 is delegations, and the first delegation tonight is Jenny Wright, the Aquarium Curator for the Nicola Sontag Marine Education Center. Welcome Darnella Seegers as well. Mayor Seegers, sorry. And Chair Seegers too.
Mayor Beamish, I don't see anyone named Jenny Wright, but I see the Sunshine Coast Conservation Society. I'm not sure, and I see here the Building Society. Let's try that one. There, it's fine. It's moving now.
Gibsons Community Building, is that you, Jenny?
Sorry,
There you are.
I didn't realize I hadn't changed my name. I wasn't paying attention clearly when I logged in.
Yeah, you look like you're in a great place behind you. You look like you're underwater. Yeah.
Yeah, appropriate for tonight, I thought.
Beautiful, thank you. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So I will just quickly share my screen. Let me see.
Yeah.
There we go. Can we all still see that okay?
Looks fine here, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor, staff, and councillors. Thank you for having me tonight. I will change my name on Zoom in a second, but my name is Jenny Wright, and I am the curator at the Nicola Sontag Marine Education Centre. And I'm going to be presenting tonight the Healthy Harbour Project Report for 2021, and also sharing a little bit on the work plan for this year, for 2022, going forward. So for anyone that's listening that isn't aware what the Healthy Harbour Project is, this is an environmental community partnership between the town of Gibsons and the Gibsons Marine Education Centre Society, which runs the Nicola Sontag Marine Education Centre. So the goal of this project is to support the natural asset management of the Gibsons Harbour. And one of these natural assets that we have identified and are focusing on with this project is our eelgrass beds, which are a marine habitat found in shallow bays and estuaries and in our harbour. So this project has three main prongs to it. The first being our data gathering, where we do surveys and mapping of our local eelgrass beds to further our knowledge on that habitat. The second prong is our policy recommendations, where we support the town council and staff by providing science-based information, which we use from our data gathering and surveys for informed decision-making to manage our natural assets. And then the third piece of this project is our community education. So our overall goal in the community education is to build a community that is passionate and knowledgeable about our harbour and the natural assets within it, and to build a community of stewards that want to protect this wonderful area. We also provide community education through our Marine Education Centre. The above picture here shows one of our newest displays from 2021 in the centre, teaching our visitors all about the eelgrass within our harbour. And we also undertake long-term environmental monitoring of these assets and of our eelgrass in particular. The bottom picture there shows our divers this year, Kevin and Kaylee, going out to do the surveys on the eelgrass beds in September of 2021. So why eelgrass? Why is it important that we're protecting this natural asset at the moment? So eelgrass beds are really important in protecting our coast from storm surges, flooding, and coastal erosion. They're also amazing in carbon sequestering, so that helps us in the fight against climate change as well. They're an amazing habitat for a wide range of marine diversity, species diversity, and they also support a wide range of commercially important marine species such as juvenile herring and juvenile salmon. All use these eelgrass beds almost like a nursery ground for feeding and hiding as they're growing. Conservation efforts are also mostly cheaper than restoration efforts, so it's important to protect them before the restoration effort is required. If the restoration effort is required, then conserving that area will prevent any further damage and also makes it more likely for the restoration efforts to actually succeed. So that is why we're conserving and protecting our local eelgrass beds as a natural asset. So what did we learn in 2021 through this project? So this year, these pictures here, the green oval at the top here on this top picture shows the area that we surveyed this year with our scientific divers. They carried out biophysical assessment and level 3 eelgrass assessments in these areas. And the blue oval depicts where we surveyed in 2020. And then the bottom picture just shows the breakwater area, which was surveyed in 2019. So this year in this area, what we found was that this Armour's Beach eelgrass bed is a really productive habitat still. When our divers were out there in this small area, they observed around 50 different marine species during that short survey time, which is incredible diversity. They were also looking at any impacts, human impacts that they could see in the area during the surveys. And what they found was that human impact was actually quite minimal at the Armour's Beach area. And this is quite interesting, as in 2020, they did some exploratory dives in this area, and they actually found that there was quite a lot of marine debris in the area. But since then, there has been some cleanup efforts by Sea Change and by ourselves. And according to our divers, it has definitely worked, as they were seeing significantly less large marine debris, which is incredible. They also did some exploratory dives this year as well, around the breakwater area, again looking for any human impacts in the form of large marine debris or moorings specifically. And when we compared this area with the Armour's Beach area, we did see significantly more fragmentation caused by human impacts. And this is just due to there's more commercial activities happening in this area. So there's a few barges that are moored there, which are either sitting on the edge of the eelgrass bed and just causing some fragmentation there as well. But again, they did see significantly less large marine debris, which is awesome. So that is, again, in large part due to the cleanup efforts of Sea Change, Marine Conservation, and ourselves that took place at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. We also were surveying locations for our potential conservation area in the Armour's Beach area. And we were assessing some sites that had been determined in 2020 and seeing if they were still suitable. And then tying into that, it was noted that eelgrass is present to 15 feet at lowest tide, about 5 meters, which is important in the placement of any conservation marine buoys as well. So to dive more into the conservation area that we are proposing through this project, the top picture here shows the 2020 findings and where the proposed conservation area would be. Each of these green markers denoted where a marker buoy would go. And through reassessment with Sea Change divers in the summer of last year and our own divers, it was discovered that a couple of the buoys down towards the south of Armour's were actually just a little bit too close to some already moored vessels. These vessels weren't encroaching on the eelgrass beds at all. It's just if we put the marker buoys there, it was discovered they'd be on top of the boats, which wouldn't be ideal. So through further discussion and looking at similar projects, it was decided that 5 marker buoys would be sufficient to denote this zone, which is exciting. So what happens next for 2022? We will be hosting a community engagement event on the 22nd of February, virtually, of course, to introduce people to this proposed eelgrass conservation zone and also to share some stories on the Gibsons Harbour and why it's important to conserve this area. We will then hopefully move forward with the installation of these marker buoys in the spring. And again, this is through the help with Sea Change Marine Conservation, who are going to be using their divers to help us install the buoys, which is incredible. We're very grateful for their help there. We will then implement a citizen scientist volunteer-led monitoring system once those marker buoys are in place. And this will just help us to see if our conservation zone is working, if boats are seeing the buoys and deciding to anchor out with that zone. And that will be set up through the Marine Education Centre as well. We will also continue our surveys of the breakwater and the Armours Beach areas, the eelgrass beds there. We'll be moving back and focusing on the transects that we implemented in 2019 at the breakwater area and allow us to compare that data from that previous assessment that we did. We will also be looking at setting up a maintenance programme for the marker buoys, an inspection protocol for those so that they're long lasting, and we'll continue to work with our stakeholders and our community to gather input on this project. And this picture here just shows what one of the graphics would look like on the marker buoys as well, to make it kind of obvious to boaters that there is eelgrass there and they shouldn't anchor. So just some further considerations to help us build our vibrant and healthy harbour. So we're going to continue to support the Town of Gibsons planning staff, hopefully be able to grow this project and look at protecting the eelgrass beds within the breakwater area further as well, see where we can go with that. We'll be continually looking for and applying for additional funding to help us grow the scope of this project. We're looking at creating a harbour user guide, which we can give out to visiting and resident boaters, just to make them aware of the natural assets in the area and the best practices when boating in our harbour. And we'll also continue our restoration and cleanup activities, again, hopefully with the help of organisations such as Sea Change and Surf Rider, who do lots of cleanups, and we've been in talks with as well to help us out with that. So very exciting for the coming year. Some of our upcoming events as well. So we do have a free day coming up at the Marine Education Centre on Friday the 18th of February. People can come in for free. You can see some of our eelgrass displays. You can talk to our knowledgeable staff about that and get more information if you'd like. We also will be hosting our last Ocean Optimism speaker series, where Sheila Byers will be joining us and talking about glass sponge reefs and bottom contact fishing in the Aquarium House Sound, and that is on February 17th. And then on the 22nd of February is our community engagement event, which I talked about, Marine Memories, Gibsons Harbour, Past, Present and Future. It'll be a virtual story sharing event to introduce our community to Gibson's first ever eelgrass conservation area. And there will be more information to follow on that event. We will be sending out invites, myself and Fiona Beattie as Sea Change are hosting it with us, and we'll be sending out invites and putting ads up for that in this coming week. And all information on other events can be found on our website and our Facebook events, if anyone wants to come along to any of those events. So I just want to finish by saying thank you to the Town of Gibsons Council and staff for your ongoing support and for having me tonight. And if there's any questions, I can take those now, or if anyone listening wants to email any questions, please feel free. I'm always available by that email. So thank you very much. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Jenny, thank you very much for your presentation. It's always very interesting to see. And the events that you have coming up, you might want to consider sharing that information with our office so that they can be put onto our website as well, or a newsletter. We have a newsletter perhaps coming up, but good to promote that jointly on that. So,
yeah, absolutely. I will definitely share all those dates and that information, because that would be great.
Elizabeth Quayle is the person to contact for that.
Perfect.
Elizabeth,
I'll write that down.
Yeah, thank you. Now, does anybody have any questions, Council? Any comments? Councillor Ladwig first, and Councillor D'Andrade.
Yeah, thank you for your report. It's always inspiring, and you guys do great work. So it's fun to have you attend our meetings. I was just wondering, we have a letter in our council correspondence file this evening talking about water quality sampling. And I was wondering if that was something that you guys were incorporating into your Healthy Harbour plan or monitoring program.
So I have previously talked with the Oceanwise program that does lots of water quality and testing for microplastics and for chemicals in the water, to see if we can combine their efforts. As in our aquarium, we don't have the scope to do the big testing, and we can do some small water quality samples, but if we partner with them, they have the big laboratory that they could actually take a lot of our samples and kind of work with them and get us more information on that. So it's definitely something that we've considered, and I'm looking into further.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought it'd be a good fit for you guys, so that's excellent. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you.
Councillor Giandrad?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Great again. It's enjoy your presentation. I think it's quite exciting as well that with the EcoBoys, I think, you know, the fact that we have Bowen Island ahead of us, it made the work quite easier. It's very inspiring. And I was wondering, you know, since the federal government has lots of incentive for ocean conservation, if there's any funding to help boat owners to, you know, at least partially pay for the EcoBoy. I always have it difficult. EcoBoy.
Yeah, the kind of the eco-friendly, like mooring buoys, the
yeah.
boats that they do. Yeah, so I know what you're talking about. I'm not aware if there's any kind of federal granting for that, but it's definitely something that we could look into to include in something like our Harbour user guide for people to kind of be made aware of and how they might be able to help out with that. So that's something I'll definitely note for looking into to include in something like that, for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish, and thank you, Jenny. It's really appreciate. And the other thing I really appreciate is the collaboration between different entities, like, you know, the Gibsons Landing Harbour Authority. They're really keen to work with you. And, you know, I know we've reached out a couple of times to Marine Search and Rescue. The other group I was going to mention, and you're probably aware of it, was the Rotary campaign with the sea bin and the signage with respect to the marine environment they wanted to do. So, you know, they may have some additional ideas for funding to work towards the project.
Yeah, I've actually been in talks with the Rotary, with Luke, about the signage project that they were doing, and seeing if they could tie in the kind of the natural assets and the habitats, and if I could help them out with the information for that. So we definitely want to tie them in, and we're keen to work with them, and they're keen to work with us. So it's great.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Well, thank you, Jenny. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate it. I think we all received a free or complimentary pass to the aquarium, and we'll look forward to taking that opportunity to come down and visit you in person, and perhaps on this upcoming events you have as well. Look forward to that. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we'll invite Mayor Seegers, Jan Bird, and Pat Hunt, and I see you're all there on the screen. And we're going to talk here about the UBCM Poverty Reduction Strategy Phase 2 grant application. And we are looking at supporting that, but I thought it would be very valuable for council and the community to learn a bit more about it. And thank you very much for taking time to be with us tonight. I know you have busy days and your evenings don't need to be filled like ours do, but Mayor Seegers is used to it. So thank you, and I'll let whoever is going to lead the conversation, please proceed.
Okay, first of all, I think there's a presentation. Can staff share that presentation?
Rebecca, Lisa, do we have a presentation?
I believe Rebecca does.
Sorry, I was muted. Lisa, did we get a final version? I think
I didn't get a final version.
Okay, I'll share it. I'll share it from here then.
Thank you very much, Mayor Seegers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now you have to let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it. You
Okay, and I have to, yeah, I have to, yeah. Hang on. Why can't I go slideshow from beginning? There we go. How's that?
We see you. We still see the sidebar, but that's okay.
You still see the sidebar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I don't usually do this. So All right, so I'll speak to the first couple of slides and then I'll ask Pat and Jan to pipe in on the others. So the Sunshine Coast Poverty Reduction Strategy, we're looking at phase 2. So just a background for you. I want to give credit to Councillor Brenda Rowe. Councillor Brenda Rowe heard about the poverty reduction strategy funding and requested that the District of Sechelt step up and take this on. So we joined with the town of Gibsons and the SCRD, applied for the first phase, and we were awarded a grant of $93,000 in 2021. The District of Sechelt was the lead agency, and then we subcontracted to the Resource Center and requested that they work on the development of the poverty reduction action plan. They hired Betty Baxter and her team as consultants and put together the strategic framework for action on poverty reduction, and it was published in June 2021. So that report has 8 recommendations, and they're listed on the screen. And I believe the information was sent out to you, and you've also seen the report that came out.
Yes.
So the funding has become available to actually take action on these. So the District of Sechelt, again, is looking to take the lead on this. If we do it regionally, we can qualify for additional funds to actually action some of these items. So I'm going to move on to the next screen, and Pat and Jan can take it away.
Can you click on the screen, Darnelda?
I have Poverty Reduction Strategy Phase 2 grant. Can you see that?
I can see that. That's the only one I can see.
Can you move it forward, Darnella?
Yeah, click on the sidebar maybe.
Is that the one you want?
Keep
hang on.
going
Oh,
down.
sorry.
There we go.
I think I'm too far ahead for you. Hang on.
There you go.
There.
I think I have to do on this screen. Okay, so I have to do it on this screen so it shows on this screen. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So that's the background. There's our recommendations. Is that what you can see now?
Yes,
Yeah.
recommendations.
Okay, there you go. Try that.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a
Wow.
novice on this
Okay.
sharing stuff.
Thanks to everyone, to the staff particularly for helping us through this. It's been, we've been working hard and are in the process of preparing the application for the District of Sechelt again to be the lead municipality for the regional grant. If we apply as a region, so that's the District of Sechelt, the SCRD and the town of Gibsons, we qualify for a maximum of $150,000 with us and that's due on February the 11th. This application is going to take the recommendations that were developed in the framework and move those forward. It's a 1-year application. It's 1-year funding. So whatever we do in the year that's coming up really lays the foundation for future work. And so we've developed 3 activity areas that will address all the recommendations that you saw. The first one is an implementation of an action coalition on poverty reduction that will bring leaders in the community that are working in the area of poverty reduction together and to begin to reduce some of the silos that we see. There will be a continuation of the communications campaign where the community, and I'll speak to that. And the one that's really innovative, we're finding, is a pilot project on digital access. So can you go to the next one, Darnelda? Thank you. So the coalition, governments, agencies, people with lived experience, and this is important. In the first phase, we had the involvement of people with lived experience, and that will continue in this phase. Inclusion and diversity will be paramount to these deliberations. And I'd like to thank Mayor Beamish for underlining that part of the application. A communications campaign. Now, we had some of that in the first strategy, where we talked about imagining a community where everyone belongs. And this time we want to push that out a little bit and look at an inclusive and diverse long-term community strategy to look at the invisibility of poverty. We know that people are living next door to us that are struggling, but we don't know, sometimes we don't know that. And the community increasing their understanding of the complexity of the supports and actions that will be needed to reduce the number of people in or at risk of poverty. Things like a living wage. We had a workshop on the living wage with the Community Foundation the other day. Income tax support. We've got a lively volunteer-led income tax support program. They can take on more people, but it needs to be promoted. We developed a poverty reduction lens so that when you're developing policies, programs, events, you'll be able to use this lens to identify where perhaps you could move in a way that would address some poverty reduction. And lastly, Jan should speak to this one because she's been very involved in this. It was recommended that we have a look at how people that are living in or at the edge of poverty could have access to digital services. So we're going to be looking at that, and PovNet is really interested in this. It will involve training. It's going to involve the tech leaders in the community. It could involve getting equipment together, access to cell phones, access to internet. We don't know what that's going to look like that at this point, but that's going to be uncovered. And next slide, Mayor Seegers.
Thank you. So our ask is that as it's a regional application from the District of Sechelt, Town of Gibsons, and the Sunshine Coast Regional District, that the Town of Gibsons Council pass a resolution and provide us with that in a letter indicating that you're in full support of the District of Sechelt to apply for, receive, and manage the UBCM grant on your behalf. And we are today in receipt of the letter from the Sunshine Coast Regional District. District of Sechelt has already passed the recommendation as well, indicating that we will take on the lead role. So I guess at this point, do you have any questions? I will stop sharing the screen.
Thank you. Thank you all for your presentation. And Council, do you have any questions about the program, about the project coming forward? Councillor Ludwig.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your presentation. That's great. This is really exciting. It's really important work. Just one question or suggestion, kind of curious. With regard to the technology campaign, I was wondering if you're partnering at all with the Senior Society. Now, I recognize this is for poverty, but a lot of seniors are living in poverty. And I know a lot of seniors, even just on that cusp, could really benefit from technology training and access to that technology. So just curious if that had, if you thought about that, or maybe just making a suggestion.
Good evening, Councillor. I'm going to answer that one. Yeah, I mean, when we started doing the research really about digital exclusion on the coast, it became obvious that there's a number of people trying to tackle it. And there was a grant received from New Horizons for and I think it went to the Better at Home, serving the seniors. The focus there is very much on isolation. but it is also about, and sort of our focus is about the reduction of poverty, but some of those are overlaps in that. So one of the things we want to do as a very initial action with the digital exclusion is map what's going on the coast already. I had somebody describe the digital inclusion as the hot potato that nobody really wants to take responsibility for. And there are a number of pockets on the coast. The libraries in Sechelt especially do very good work. The schools are trying to tackle it in some respects. We've got the seniors project through Better at Home, and there's other things going on, but they're sort of little pockets of ad hoc. And what we want to do is sort of try and bring those all together and try and put in a much more collaborative and cohesive form. So at least find out sort of who needs it and try and make it much more accessible, and also make sure that there's the confidence building and the safety training and things around it, and also the provision of hardware, which is a real issue. Sort of got some feedback from the Sechelt Nation 2 days ago saying, that they have also got resources to support people, but if people haven't got the hardware, it's no good, basically. So it's about bringing all those pieces together. So we would be taking the seniors into consideration.
Thank you.
Great response. Well informed. That's a great statement.
And yeah, I know Pat, Jan, the library here in Gibsons is also very active in providing access, and it's very important, especially to people who are on the street or seniors. Or we all recognize that at tax time when everybody comes in and wants to file their taxes and fill out forms and things like that. So it's very important to have that resource. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish, and thank you for the presentation. I was looking, I don't actually see a motion in the agenda.
There is a motion in the agenda. It's item on your agenda package. It is item 11.2. And if you'd like to make that motion.
I'll make the motion then. I think with the juggling of agendas, things perhaps got lost in the shuffle. I have Mayor Seeger's letter.
Yeah.
But I don't have the actual.
The motion is that the town of Gibsons agrees.
Actually, I do apologize, sir.
That's okay.
So on page 5 of our agenda, 11.2, I would like to move the motion that the letter dated January 25th from Mayor Seegers, District of Sechelt, regarding UBCM Poverty Reduction Strategy Phase 2 grant application be received, and then the town of Gibsons agrees to partner with the District of Sechelt and the Sunshine Coast Regional District in the proposed poverty reduction strategy, and further that the town of Gibsons support the District of Sechelt to receive and manage the grant, and the funding may be received from UBCM Municipalities Poverty Reduction Strategy Phase 2 grant program.
Thank you.
Okay.
The mouthful. It's a good thing it was written down. Seconded by Councilor D'Andrade. Is there any further discussion, Council? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your presentation and delegation. And I invite you to stay. We are going to have a conversation on watershed security a little further along. So with a short video from the minister. So you're welcome to stay for that. A little bit of entertainment for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
for your
for having
support.
us.
Okay.
Thank you.
And for your support.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our agenda then. We're now at that stage where we have our first inquiry section. And for those of you who are in the audience, the inquiries at this point in time are for any item that is on our agenda this evening for deliberation by council. So that there will be a second inquiry section at the end of the meeting for other issues, but this one is particularly to give us a heads up on what concerns you might have on the issues that we're going to be talking about. So
if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. If you're on the phone, you can press *6 or *9. I see no hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll proceed on the agenda then. The next item, 8.1, is the committee of the whole meeting of January 18, 22. We have received the minutes from that. already, so that, is there anything arising from those minutes, council, that council like to bring attention? Seeing none. 8.2 is the Police Transactions Select Committee minutes of January 18. And this is the committee that we had our first meeting on January the 18th. And consists of myself with Wayne Rowe, Brad Zellis, Ed Hill, with the support from Mark Brown, our Chief Administrative Officer, our Corporate Officer, and Rebecca Anderson and Tracy Hinks, our Deputy Corporate Officer. It was a very good meeting, a good startup meeting, and very timely that that very day that we had the meeting, Mark received some additional correspondence from the province. So we're able to kind of have a fairly good discussion about what's coming. The key date for us right now is February the 9th, which also is the date of our next meeting. We are going to meet on every second Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock. And the key of February 9th, of course, is that is the day when the Canada Census population data comes out. So it'll either be our second meeting or it'll be our last meeting. We're not sure which. So that we will see what happens on that time. And in addition to that, and just for everybody's awareness, at the last council meeting, council also appointed Nancy Hughes of Gibsons to be a member of that committee. So she will be joining the committee. And we have an advertisement out right now for looking for another member. It's a 7-member committee. We have 6 members right now. We're looking for a community member, somebody who is not affiliated with or have a background in policing. We need that conversation as well. So hopefully we'll receive those applications by Friday, and we will present them to the committee for recommendation to council at the meeting on January 9th. So we'll be dealing with that. So that's it for now on that. If council has any questions of me on that. These meetings, by the way, are held via Zoom, and they are open to the public to attend. And we have a very similar process as we have with council. We have an inquiry section at the end, so if anybody has any questions about what's happening, they're certainly welcome to participate and ask those questions directly of the committee members. So that's how we're handling that. So, okay, seeing none, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, and this is the Holland Lands Cultural Corner Revitalization Select Committee meeting of January the 19th. And who wants to handle that one? Councillor Ladwig, are you going to speak to that, or?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. Would it be possible to share the presentation that's attached to this report on our screen? Would that be possible?
It's possible. I have to talk to Lisa or Rebecca.
Hold on 1 second while I locate it. I just need to locate it.
Okay, well, I'll speak to it while Rebecca's pulling that up. Thank you, Rebecca. So on January 19th, the Holland Lands Cultural Corner Committee got together to review the feedback that all the tenants on the Holland Lands received from their boards. Over Christmas, all the tenants from the Holland Lands were tasked with going away with a set of questions that had been developed by Modus Consultants and myself and our CAO and our Director of Planning. We put together a suite of questions for them to take to their board members to seek their feedback on different approaches and concepts that have developed through the work of Modus and the work of the committee. The 2 primary options that the board members were being asked to provide feedback on was essentially what Modus had referred to as an incremental approach to revitalization of the Holland Lands, which focuses more on the efforts of individual tenants approaching their space needs and renovations individually, versus a transformational approach, which explores the option of the Holland Lands tenants coming together and doing more of a collaborative approach, looking at how they can utilize the Holland Lands most efficiently, kind of like stepping back and going, how can we meet everybody's needs in the most efficient way possible? Is everyone's needs being met? How can we make sure that all the different space needs of these tenants are being developed in a way that makes the most sense? The thing that makes the transformational option interesting and definitely in need of community input on is the fact that in order to make that option an option, we're considering or exploring the feasibility of subdividing off a portion of the Holland lands to bring in a community-minded developer to bring in housing and use the revenue that's generated from that subdivision to help fund the renovation of the other part of the project. So the remodeling and redevelopment of all the tenants' buildings. So this is obviously a very big question that we need to ask the community. And before we do that, we wanted to make sure that all the individuals sitting on the committee went back to their boards and asked them first to make sure that even all their boards were comfortable with it, or which approach which approach these tenants boards wanted to take. So that's the background on that meeting. If I know council doesn't like me reading off presentations, but considering there's a number of people in the audience, I thought maybe it might be worth just walking through the presentation quickly, if Rebecca has managed to figure out how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If not, that's okay. I can just kind of read off my screen a little bit. Okay, I'll just carry on. So, and like I said, I do apologize. I know that reading isn't how people like to receive information, but it's probably just the most efficient way to go. So essentially at that meeting on the 19th, we gathered up all the feedback from all the different tenants, reviewed them all, and identified or looked for emerging themes, ideas or concepts that a lot of the tenants supported. There's a number of themes, it's in the package. I'm not going to read them all to you, but they speak to things like making use of shared space needs to maximize efficiency. So looking at sharing meeting spaces, satellite workstations, or a shared lobby. Approaching a broad spectrum of government and private corporations for funding opportunities such as TELUS or the federal government and the province, ensuring that the Squamish Nation is recognized in this plan, which was an oversight up until this point. So I'm glad we caught that. And ensuring that central continuation of green space and strong connectivity between the tenants' services was highlighted as a strong value. And then quite significantly or important to recognize is there was broad support for this transformational approach, with the caveat that we partner with a community-minded developer, that we consider a hybrid model to allow some flexibility in fundraising, and that we gain support for this approach from the community. So those are the caveats right now sitting with this concept. And there's recommendations before council this evening for you to consider for taking the next step. But I will continue to walk through some of the other themes that emerged from that meeting. Members of the committee did identify a few concerns, which is understandable at this stage of such a considerable project. They raised concerns about messaging and timelines for engagement with community, financial commitments and funding models, and the cost of the project, expectations or role and responsibilities of tenants regarding fundraising, and of course the disruption to public service during construction. So in my presentation, I try to address some of these needs, and again, I don't want to read it all to you. It's there for you to review. But the one that I do want to talk about is the messaging to the community, because that's really, really important at this stage. So at this point, and it relates to our motion, the material that we're proposing to develop will focus on the key principles that were developed by the committee right off the bat, and of course outline the preferred approach that the committee has identified, that being the transformational one. The material will be display boards that will be put up in the Gibsons library and town hall, as well as an online format as well. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Rebecca. These display boards will talk about the benefits. Back up. These display boards will provide the rationale as to why this approach was preferred by the tenants. They'll explain the benefits to the community, including raising capital for construction, experience being brought into the process from a community-minded developer, more full-time year-round occupancy in Lower Gibsons area, increasing vibrancy in the Lower Gibsons area. Part of the subdivision component includes the idea or concept of bringing in commercial space to kind of expand the vibrancy of the Lower Gibsons area, but on a small scale. So it's in keeping with the form and character of the area. And of course, this brings in an increased tax base, of course. So there's a number of benefits from this approach. Recognize that this is a community decision. It's not just ours, and people have to support this idea. But we figured that this is the type of information we'd lay out in our display boards. The only images at this point that we'll be presenting to the public are images that represent the principles of the committee, along with maybe a bubble map showing, like, residential housing could go over here and maybe a bit of commercial over here and the library over here. But we're very clear that we don't want to go out with a schematic at this point, because we don't want people to think that that's the final product, because it's way too early in the process for us to have a form and character plan at this stage. That'll be phase 2 when the community is more involved and engaged in the process. So thank you, Rebecca. Can you go to the next slide, please? And sorry, Mayor Beamish, if you want to cut me off, I'm doing the best I can.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so let's skip the recommendation because it's in the council report or agenda. As far as timelines go, we'll just stop on this one quickly. Essentially, there's a number of steps and pieces of work for myself and our CAO to do over the next month or two. The important thing is for folks to know that we're proposing to have materials go out to the community, assuming council supports this. I believe in March, probably, kind of mid-February, third week of February to mid-March, that kind of timeline. So very quickly, we're trying to get it out there as quickly as we can, so people don't feel like we're baking a cooked plan without their input. So we're trying to get it out to them as soon as possible. So just know that kind of coming up here in February, March, we're hoping to get this information out to the public, and we'll be doing that through these display boards, through an online portal, hopefully with Elizabeth's help, Facebook, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So the principles that I spoke to, and I put this slide in here to remind people what the principles are of this committee, so that people aren't concerned about the values and the approaches being taken. The principles that the committee agreed to right off the bat was that first and foremost, the aquifer must be protected in anything that happens on these lands. Green space must be maintained with an increase in biodiversity and tree canopy cover. The project must be consistent with other Town of Gibsons development plans, so including our form and character guidelines for the harbour and our tree bylaw. Accessibility for the site must be improved, so we want better pathways, connectivity between services and buildings. The green space must be more usable and engaging for people of all ages, including young families. Squamish Nation elements need to be included. Small scale commercial space should be incorporated to increase the vibrancy in Lower Gibsons. The Persephone should be relocated there, if not to the Pioneer Park, which is another initiative that tourism is taking on. That's for another day. The connectivity with Wine Garden Park should be considered, so there's a nice cohesion between the two spaces. And obviously, most importantly here is that everybody's space needs are met through the design. So those are the principles that we're going to be going out to the community and sharing and letting them know that whatever happens on this property, those principles will be adhered to. Next slide, please. Maybe I'll leave it at that. I think a lot of the next slides just get into addressing a few of the concerns, which probably more detail than council needs at this stage, and it's in the report for you to read. So I think I will leave it there, if that's okay with you. There is a recommendation for you to consider. Well,
thank you, Councillor Ladwick, and thank your committee. You're doing a great job for something you've taken on very recently. This has not been long term, and I appreciate your dedication to it. And Councillor Mark, CAO, you have.
Yes, I just want to acknowledge the work that Councillor Ladwick did to put that presentation together. Staff have been very busy, as you can appreciate, and to save money, rather than have our consultant put this together, she did this on her own time and with working with myself and Rebecca. So I just want to acknowledge that she went above and beyond and did an awesome job.
They're just doing my job. That's what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Council have any questions at this time? Councillor D'Andrade.
Yeah, I have a comment. I appreciate that the engagement is from February 11 to March 14, so it gives a month for people to experience, because sometimes, if it's just 2 weeks, you are busy on a week and the next week you cannot make it and you lost the opportunity. I wonder if there's a chance to do maybe a preview. I don't know if there's, just a preview announcement that this will be coming. So people are starting to, perhaps on the newspaper or just an email, because I mean, this is a really important initiative. Obviously, we know it's gonna generate a lot of comments. And I'm assuming that people will be able to give any sort of comments, right? By letter, by, writing, going to the town, send emails, or any other. So, but I think this is great.
Thank you. Councillor Ledwig?
I was just going to say, I think Councillor DeAndrade and I think a lot alike when it comes to this stuff, because in one of the bullets, I do say that after tonight's meeting, if council supports it, I'd like to work with Elizabeth and our CAO on a press release about it to kind of get ahead of it. So
good. Yeah, good. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, just on in one of the bullet points, it was Squamish recognition. Are you reaching out to Squamish Nation for their input on that? Or have you, or will you be?
Very good point. So that was, that came up from the feedback at the last meeting, and we caught it, but that's a very good point. We have not reached out yet. So I will make a point of doing that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Council, there are two recommendations in the package. That's 8.3.1, and that is that the Holland Visioning document, i.e. display boards prepared by Modus in consultation with members of the Holland Cultural Corner Select Committee, be utilized as the basis for presentation and information to seek community input and feedback for the future uses of the Holland lands. And further, that Councillor Ladwig and the CAO will be directed to work with Modus and the town's communication coordinator to finalize presentations, materials, and develop a communication plan for public engagement.
Oh.
Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good, thank you. And once again, Councillor Ladwig and CAO, thank you very much for your work on this project. Been excellent. Thank you. We'll go to 8.4 now, and this is the special committee of the whole minutes for January 25, 22. We have received those minutes. Is there anything rising from them, Council? Seeing nothing, we'll go to administration reports. 9.1, the Director of Infrastructure Services, flushing the CCTV and smoke testing of sanitary and drainage systems tender award. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Bemis.
Thank you.
I'm not going to bother turning my video on. I'm on my phone, and the bobbing around of the phone sometimes gives you motion sickness. So the report in front of you is to award the flushing and videoing of our both sanitary, a portion of our sanitary and our storm systems. This is a program that we've been running for a number of years, and it is intended to identify any repairs or maintenance that is required on our system, and is particularly important for our sanitary system in order to identify locations of INI, which is inflow and infiltration, which during rain events can really overload our wastewater treatment plant. So that's by far the most important part of this. But it also provides a baseline, because we will, on the sanitary, we've got 5 sections of the town. And I think it's every 7 years, each pipe will be viewed once every 7 years. And so we'll be able to see how it's holding up to regular wear and tear, and helps us provide informed decisions on where to focus our efforts on repairs and maintenance. So we went out to tender on this. I was happy to see that we had 5 respondents. So they're all off coast, but sometimes being Gibsons, it's harder to get the interest. So 5 is always good to see, and a very wide range on pricing. But you can see at the in council or in the recommendations to council, staff are recommending award to C3 mainline inspections. And because it is a unit price contract, we will adjust the scope of work to fit within the established budgets. They provided a price based on our initial units. So it's per meter of pipe, per manhole, root cutting, smoke testing, etc. And they provided a price of 229,000 and change for doing both the sanitary and the storm, which was the full scope that we had asked for. But there are a lot of variables in there, so we would the way the resolution is wording is that we would stay within the $69,000 for the drainage and $188,000 for the sanitary portion of the program. And staff are looking at council now for a resolution for award so that we can get this program moving during 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Newman, for your presentation and recommendations. So council have any questions about this program? Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish, and thank you, Director Newman. I'm just wondering, have we used C3 in the past?
Good question. Thank you. No, we haven't, but we did check on their recommendations, or sorry, their references, and they have been working for some locations for a number of years. And I also spoke to a consultant who worked with them. So their references checked out very well. And so we see no reason why we wouldn't award the program to them. And it's also nice to be able to get exposure to other companies as well to see how well they service us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. CAO?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to pass along on behalf of our Director of Finance, he's just to inform council that these expenditures are actually provided for in the 2021 budget and they are allocated. So the tender, as described by our Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Newman, are met with the 2021 budget.
Good, thank you. Okay, council, there's a recommendation in the report, and that is the staff be instructed to award the flushing CCTV and smoke testing of sanitary and drainage systems tender, PW 2021-05, to C3 Mainline Inspections, Inc., and that the program scope be adjusted to not exceed the maximum of $69,000 for the drainage portion of the program and a maximum of $188,000 for the sanitary portion of the program. Moved by Councillor D'Andrade, second by Councillor Kroll. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. And that's approved. Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, our next item on our agenda are council reports. And I invite anybody who wishes to make a council report to raise their hand. And you do not have to make a council report, so I'm not going to single you all out. So then we go for, okay, Councillor Kroll. Good.
I'll certainly defer to you, sir, if you want to go first.
No, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. There are a few things that came up. I had a meeting on the 26th with Paul Kamen, Jackson Davies, and Matthew Lewis about the Persephone project, and I have been the tourism, as Councillor Ludwig mentioned, have some funding and have access to some funding that we might not have direct access to. So we're looking at coming up with a housing for the Persephone to keep it in the lower village, either permanently or as an interim project until the Holland Land project develops. On the 28th, I was also in a meeting with Mayor Beamish on living wage, which is an important thing, and it was almost something I was going to ask with respect to this past tender is, when we're doing community projects, are the contractors we use, are the contractors we're using paying a living wage? So it's something that I think we need to consider moving forward. After our last council meeting, we had a delegation with respect to electric vehicle charging stations. And I followed up with BC Hydro just to find out what was involved and would we qualify to upgrade our charging stations to the rapid charging. And they said, currently, we do not qualify, that there's a rapid charging station in Horseshoe Bay and one in Seashelt, and that currently we're not on BC Hydro's radar. So to that end, we wouldn't qualify for the BC Hydro funding or the provincial funding. We'd only qualify for the federal funding, which is $100,000 towards the cost of the stations, and they're quite a bit more than that. So I did get back to both Dennis from
Olson. Yep.
Dennis Olson and Buddy Boyd, just to let them know. Dennis was quite surprised, so he said he was going to pursue it further, and if he is able to glean any more information, I indicated that from a town's perspective, we would probably be in support from the point of view of designating parking spots, possibly even the conversion of the existing spots to rapid charging. In the lower village, I addressed the issue of Sunnycrest Mall, and Dennis said currently Sunnycrest Mall wouldn't be an ideal site because they actually physically don't have the power within their hydro capacity to power the stations. So, it's back in the court of the delegation presenters on that one. I also, just out of curiosity, attended the information hearing on the RV park in the regional district. And it was sort of interesting because it's an issue that we sort of wrestled with here in Gibsons about RV parks and, finding appropriate places for them. It was, we're having a housing crisis, and there are certain types of housing it appears that some of the public don't want. So I think it's going to be something that's going to keep rearing its head. I know there's a lot of pressure coming about for RV parks in municipal areas, tiny home complexes. So, I think it's something that we're going to be seeing a lot more of. And that's basically it for me for now.
Thank you. Councillor Diendrad?
A question for Councillor Crowe. I remember a while ago, the SRD was going to create like a housing, now I don't remember if there was to designate a personnel or coordinator or to create, where are they with that?
The funding has been approved, and it's I don't know exactly why it's hung up at the RD.
Okay.
Perhaps Mayor Beamish.
I think it's going to be, I think we're going to hear about that one shortly. They're going to combine that with another position, and we'll see about that project. Will come forward shortly. The funding is there for it.
Yeah. And I did notice, if people haven't noticed, the pop-up at the Sunnycrest Mall has appeared with respect to the destigmatizing of homelessness. It's the Deer Crossing project. And I notice our alternate youth counselor has his hand up.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the pop-up, David.
What it is, it's there's they have a house suspended in midair, And there's a couple of tables around the house, and they're inviting people with lived experience to sort of write a comment or make a comment and submit it. So I'm assuming what they're looking at doing at this point was gleaning from people who have had homeless experience to just share their experience, so that can be extrapolated into a report. And some of the issues, obviously, people hopefully will be honest enough to express what their experience has been in dealing with, you know, with homelessness in a community. And it's a difficult thing when you look at, you know, we all got our assessments, you know, and we look at the value of homes in this community, and it's sort of hard to think of, you have this value of home on one side and people who have nothing on the other. It's a very tough reality to deal with. And so I'm really looking forward to see what Deer Crossing come up with. And also just at this point, because it came up with just the work that Silas is doing. And I'm really concerned that Silas is going to chew through the money that was allocated to him, because it's not just a, you know, once a week meeting or something. He's spending days with some of these issues that he's been dealing with. And again, it's one of these things, and it came up at the living wage thing, is, you know, the provincial government provided funding for housing, but they provided no funding for the support for the people within that housing. So, you know, mental health work, all, you know, different aspects of needs that those people have, there's no funding to support it. So there's this, it's not a complete equation. And that's something that really needs to be addressed. And I don't know, we've probably missed the boat on UBCM, but it's, and you know, in our conversation with the housing, with BC Housing, it was one of the issues that they raised to our attention and asked that we push it back up the ladder.
I'm going to go to Colton next. Thank you. Colton?
Hi. For my report, I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention actually, a month ago, I got into this group called the Constituency Youth Council, which is for our riding, the Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky, West Vancouver riding. And it's a bunch of people around my age and like 5 years and up who go and talk to our MP, Patrick Wheeler, and we give him advice on our youth opinion on stuff. And I think it's pretty cool. And we had our first meeting last week. So I thought I should tell you guys that.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And
also,
interested in regular updates on that, if that's possible.
Yeah. And then also, like just around the last week, me and Evie, or I had seen on social media, there's in Europe, some cities have banned fossil fuel ads in the tobacco style, where because it's really harmful, and with all the advertisements promoting that, some cities in Europe have banned fossil fuel ads. Sorry. So me and Evie were looking at that, and we were like finding doing a bunch of research, but we decided that's probably not worth it in the town because we don't have much of that there because of the sign bylaws. But we are interested in looking at environmental solutions in the town.
Excellent. Good. Yeah. Well, just have to talk to Councillor D'Andrade. She'll show it all to you. She's a fount of knowledge on all those issues. So I appreciate that. So thank you. Yeah. And what was your experience in that? Councillor Kroll mentioned you were in the Sunnycrest Mall with that house.
Well, it was interesting because I sort of, you know, it's a bit awkward in a way because it's inviting homeless people to contribute. So, you know, I had some other business to do, so I sort of kept an eye on it for the bit of time I was there. You know, hopefully people will approach it. I haven't spoken to Silas, but I was going to encourage that any people he is working with, that he encourage them, whether they do it or a submission of theirs gets put into it, or, but it's just you know, I just don't know how comfortable people would be standing there filling out, you know, the thing, you know.
The Deer Crossing, the art farm, Deer Crossing will be at our next council meeting, doing a delegation and updating us on that project. So that'll be interesting.
Okay.
Councilor Diandrat?
You know, people could obviously go off and write their submission and then just drop it in, but I don't think, you know, they provided pens and papers and submission forms. You know, it's.
Councilor Diandrat?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment regarding, you know, this issue of actually came up early poverty reduction and now the destigmatization, but the lack of housing. And I know in our discussion with the Sunshine Coast Housing Society, at one point we talk about the important role that the regional government, that a regional approach we should have, because what I feel is the local level receive all the burden, right? We receive all the consequences of policies that have been done or not have been done at the federal level and at the provincial level. I know UBCM fulfills part of this role, right? When municipalities send resolution, but I feel that somehow I wish we were a little bit more aggressive in terms of looking at these issues like regionally. And my hope is with the regional, the SCRD creating this position, we could act in this regard, because we do a tremendous job in trying to find, you know, solutions at the local level. But I think the federal level and the provincial level have to catch up this. Like a good example is they provide the housing, but they don't provide the maintenance. And it's so disconnected. So I hope this structure, it becomes almost a lobbying thing that also helps to put a resolution towards UBCM, but also we can have a straight dialogue with ministers, the same way we're doing with the watershed. And I think that's becomes perhaps a big role that we have to work, because it's almost not fair that we always burn the local level. And, you know, while
I think a good deal is happening relative to regionally on housing and emergency housing. Mayor Seegers and groups in Seashell have been working on that. So perhaps we could have an update. That'd be another opportunity for to update council on that. So
yeah.
Other reports? For myself, January 21st, I attended a meeting with Cap University, and Mayor Seegers were there along with others, and talked about childcare on the Sunshine Coast. The university is working very hard to create a program for students for early childhood education program, and looking at how they can introduce that to the coast and train up to 30 people to meet the needs of education and childcare on the coast. So that's something that's being worked on. SCRD meetings, there was corporate services meeting and a board meeting past week. Regional Health Board, I had been vice chair of the Regional Health Board. Darnella Seegers is going to continue as chair, and Albina Paul is vice chair this year for the Health Board, Regional Health Board. Living wage, which Councillor Kroll alluded to, there was a meeting with hosted by the Community Foundation. It was an excellent meeting, an excellent opportunity to learn more about the living wage, which for the coast is $19.79. It is a program that I strongly support. I think we brought it up a couple of years ago and just kind of lost track of it. And but now I think we need to take a look at it. Once again, I think our strength is to do it regionally. Mayor Seegers and I talked about that, about perhaps bringing it towards to the intergovernmental meeting is something to talk about. There is work to be done. It takes about a year of work with policies and programs to get yourself certified as a living wage employer. Right now, the Sunshine Coast Community Foundation is the only certified living wage employer on the Sunshine Coast. There are about 10 municipalities now that are living wage employers, and Victoria made a presentation at that workshop, and it was excellent. And it does, as Councillor Crowell says, it has to sift down through the whole program that we do. In other words, if we're going out to contract, we encourage our contractors to become living wage employers. And that has been the experience in Victoria, that more and more organizations and businesses have become living wage employers because they want to do business with the municipality. So they are prepared to pay up on that. And there's probably fairly few that we deal with. I talked to our director of finance about that. What would be the impacts of our becoming a living wage employer? And the sense is that most of the contractors that we deal with today are probably paying a living wage. Perhaps not all, but most of them would be. So that looking at how we can encourage that. Again, looking at it from instead of trying to do it on ourselves but looking at it from Sunshine Coast, Team Sunshine Coast perspective. So there will be more on that. We're going to, it's difficult time right now during our budget process to kind of change hats and focus on that. But if we are going to do it, we'll need to kind of follow up in the spring after the budget is done and take a look at what it would take to move forward that project. So I very strongly see it as a potential for the 2023 budget process for us to be involved in. So those are the things I've been involved in and continue to be involved in. And Councillor Crowell?
Just to follow up to what you were saying, sir, and it was interesting because the Cap College at the same meeting mentioned that one of their courses that they set up for childcare, for example, and they had something like 18 people register for the course. And when the course started, it had dwindled down to one person because the people realized that even taking the course, once they graduated, they couldn't make a living wage and afford to live in the community.
Yeah.
So it's it's all these dots that we need to connect and make the dots and equations work, as opposed to throwing money at one problem and creating 6 others.
Yeah. Councillor Ludwig.
Just really quickly, obviously I support us being a living wage employer. Just as a side note, I would be shocked if any of the contractors that we're contracting out to isn't already paying a living wage because of the labor shortage right now. Good luck trying to get someone to work for you if you're not. Having said that, I would seriously question the livability of the living wage.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Like half the income would be gone to that daycare like that. And so I don't know. And but I support us looking into this and explore.
Yeah. The question is whether or not the living wage is the wage, but at least it's a baseline based upon some analysis, and it assumes a two adult household with both adults earning a living wage for an income. So that's how it pulls together. Councillor Dindrat?
Perhaps our lobbying has to be ask the federal government so that corporations pay more tax so they can subsidize part of the wage, for example. And I think that's what we get up. We try to solve our problems, but then we have big corporations that pay very little tax. So perhaps I think we have to start lobbying this regard.
There is a lobby organization out there doing just that sort of thing, working on that living wage organization. Councillor Lumley?
Wrong button. Yeah, it'd be good to get feedback from some small businesses too. I mean, it's easy for anyone that has a job, or sure, you're a contractor. Well, you're employing skilled laborers. Like, of course, they already make a living wage. Like but there will be some small businesses that have varying degrees of people they employ. And even somebody that might be 14 or 15 years old, like even wants a job. But I could see all kinds of problems for small businesses because they might not be able to pay that to them. And those people don't necessarily need it. So there might be some scales that have to be set. And the fact is, if you say, well, you got to pay a 16-year-old, like I'm gonna say dishwasher, for instance, $20 an hour. Well, the guy that you're already paying $21 an hour that works online, Well, he's going to go, well, I want like $26 an hour. And then the problem will evolve is that you just won't hire those people. So not only will you not be able to pay a living wage, you're going to reduce your staffing. But anyway, I'd reach out to small businesses before I, like say, made an overall commitment. The town of Gibsons is behind all this, and just get some feedback because we have a number of small businesses in this town. So
there is a recognition in the program that not all employees are equal, and so that particularly those youth workers and things like that, after school workers. So, and it doesn't mean that we wouldn't be taking on, if we did take this on, we wouldn't be taking this on as a community. We'd be taking it on as an employer. And so that, and then up to other employers to look at it themselves and make their own decisions. So I think so. It's not one that's saying that you must do that, but it may be one that's saying if you want to do business with a town, you need to do that. So, but there's very few that we can look at and see that are impacted. So, any other reports tonight? That'll be an interesting conversation. I want to carry on, but the living wage does recognize that there is varying degrees of workers, levels of workers. So. Okay, nothing else then. We'll move on to council correspondence for the weeks ending January 17 and 24. Is there anything in those correspondence lists that council wants to bring forward? Councilor D'Andrade?
It's on the 17th in regards to the toxic waste that is leaking close to Lunitas. And I know there's a letter that staff responded.
I'm sorry, Councilor, what toxic waste?
Oh, close to some oil that's leaking right.
What oil? Have you tested it?
No. Well, exactly. Okay.
So describe it as some material that is leaching from the ground.
Okay.
You do not know there's toxic. Yeah.
It is oily unless it's a vegetable oil.
It was tested.
It
was tested when I was CAO here, and it was deemed to be a natural substance of sulfide, iron sulfide. Now, the same thing, actually, the interesting thing was it came up in the agenda of the regional district the other day, similar staining of a walkway that somebody reported. And if you go in elsewhere in the community, I can point out the locations where it exists in natural form. So before you talk about it being a toxic substance or an oil or a leaching, it's always been there. 20 years that I know of. It's been there, and it's continues annually as a leaching, and it's being tested.
Okay, I think my point. Okay, potentially toxic or non-toxic or leaching, but I think
everything's potentially toxic.
Exactly, but I think my point is. There's a staff mentioned that there's a report, but I know there's issues with FYI. I wonder if council can get this report until the FYI is disclosed, because I myself would like to know what is this substance?
Well, the only thing we can do is have it retested. I don't think I'm not aware that council, the staff has been able to locate the report that was done. It was Wendy Gilbertson. Wendy Gilbertson had it tested when she was here as director of parks. And so it was tested that time, but I don't know that report has been accessible. So probably we'd have to have it retested. That would be the only thing to do.
So can we make a motion to retest?
We could just ask the CIO.
I would like to put a motion that we retest that, and then we have assurance of what it is, because So, but let's, until we have assurance, let's not call it toxic waste or anything else like that. Okay.
It's you don't know what it is. It's just material that is leaching from the sidewall onto the thing. Evie?
I think it was the regional district presentation we had, and we talked about the toxic waste, and somebody had the idea to put a sign up so that it would stop. Has there been any movement with that, so people are stopped, the same question doesn't come up?
Yeah, I'm not aware if the staff has put a sign up yet, but that was a request that we put a sign up there to identify it. Yeah, I recall that. So But let's go ahead and pay to have it tested and see what the results are. But Councillor Ludwig?
This is why I brought up the water quality sampling with the market. I think this would just be a great role for them in the future, just kind of, you know, just as a thing.
Do that sort of thing, sure. Yeah. Councillor Diendrad?
I think it's important because, again, what are you testing for? So we need to test for toxicity to ensure that it's not toxic.
Well, it was Coastal Health that inspected the one in the regional district, and they declared it not to be a problem, sort of thing.
Okay. And if they could identify what it is, then what it is, the substance, right? And then we can put a sign. Okay. So Mayor Beamish, do we need a motion for that?
No, you don't need a motion. CIO, Carrie will follow through with that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ludwig?
The only other correspondence I'd like to mention is I want to thank you for including letters that you've responded to correspondence we've received. So I just wanted to thank you, Mayor Beamish, for including those in our reading file. It's nice to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do respond.
I know we do, but it's nice to see it in the correspondence file. So that is yes, that's great. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the the Watershed Security Coalition. And I wanted to bring this to council's attention tonight because it's a current issue out there. It's an opportunity to have input to the province, and it's with the Watershed Security Coalition, and it has to do with the Watershed Security Fund that the province is seeking now input on. And there is on our website, we have quite a bit of information already on the website. I've asked staff to key up a short video of the minister's announcement on this. And one of the things that I was particularly pleased about in the context of this announcement was his reference to aquifers as being part of his concern. So staff, do you have that video available? Thank you. We're just going to see 5 minutes of this, by the way.
Good morning and welcome. It's my pleasure to be joining with you today on the territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples to announce an important step toward creating BC's first watershed security strategy. Our water is a very precious and limited resource. We depend on drinking water for growing our food, for recreation, for sustaining our lives. And importantly, water has cultural and spiritual significance for Indigenous peoples. It's essential for sustaining our important fisheries and aquatic life and ecosystems. And many small businesses and industries rely on water to support our economic well-being. Our lives and livelihoods are enhanced or undermined by the quality and supply of our water. It's as important to us as the air we breathe and the land on which we stand. We've all witnessed the increasingly dramatic impacts of climate change. They're affecting British Columbians through extreme heat, flood, droughts, and wildfire. And the impact of these weather events on agricultural operators, communities, homeowners, and businesses is devastating. So is the cost of recovery and finding environmentally appropriate ways to deal with the waste and the destruction. That's why we urgently need to prepare for future climate events and work together to strengthen the security of our precious and threatened water. As climate change and extreme weather events increase in frequency and severity, watersheds play an increasingly central role in our lives. They can help protect us from storms and floods. We recognize the risk a changing climate poses to the health of our communities and ecosystems, and we are already taking action through the Healthy Watersheds Initiative. More than 60 watershed and restoration projects are taking place at over 200 sites around BC. Many of the projects have already demonstrated the value of investing in nature-based solutions to help protect communities from storms and floods. But we recognize that much more needs to be done. To ensure the availability of good quality water for communities and healthy ecosystems, we are going to develop the province's first watershed security strategy and an associated fund. The strategy will largely focus on protecting our freshwater resources, both groundwater and surface water. This will be the first comprehensive strategy to protect watersheds and provide direct investments to support their health. Reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is central to this work, and we are working closely with Indigenous organizations through the ongoing engagement needed to successfully build and implement our strategy. We're also engaging the public and consulting all stakeholders to make sure our efforts align with priorities like protection of drinking water and fish habitat and land use planning. Management and stewardship of watersheds is a collaborative effort among government ministries. My ministry is aligned with important work already being done across government to keep our watersheds healthy and secure. The ministries of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, as well as Forests, Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development play a strong role in managing water resources. Parliamentary Secretary Finn Donnelly and Minister of State Nathan Cullen will continue to support the development of the watershed security strategy through their respective mandates. Given the urgent need to prepare for future climate events, I'm inviting British Columbians to join in the conversation and provide input on the ideas presented for this strategy in an online discussion paper we are releasing today. It's available at gov.bc.ca/water. The paper is meant to facilitate dialogue, and the input we receive will inform the next steps. There will be more important opportunities for input on the draft strategy in the fall. Our goal is to bring back a watershed security strategy and fund proposal for our government to consider by the end of this year. Together, we can build a legacy of healthy and resilient watersheds feeding rivers, lakes, streams, and aquifers. It's important for the future, for our children, and for our grandchildren. Thank you, and I would now like to invite Oliver Brandon.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. I just wanted council to see that presentation because I think it's really important and is right on line with what we talked about on November the 3rd when we had our watershed dialogue. Very important that we also participate in this process. March the 18th is the date for the feedback and written submission. I'd like to make sure that through our staff, perhaps through our CIO, Machado, who's been very strongly supportive, as we all know, since we've been here as councils on watershed security and watershed governance, that we make a submission on this. The key messages that the Watershed Security Coalition is putting out is that the fund is important and urgent. We must deal with it. We just saw the cost of the flooding this past fall. The fund must be prioritized, and the fund needs to reflect the key principles of Indigenous governance, scale for impact, sustainability, and flexibility to regional needs and priorities. We have a need. We need to make it our priority. As a Sunshine Coast, we need to make it our priority. There's still logging in the watershed. We are taking a position relative to this lot 1313. There's still development occurring in the watershed above us. And as a result of all those impacts, we are getting flooding, and we need to protect that. So it's just really a call to arms on this one, council. It's an opportunity, I believe, an opportunity for the future of our community. We can't afford any damage, any destruction, any contamination of our watershed. We don't have an alternative. So we must take an initiative here. So I would just ask council that we support this going through. There's no resolution on that to be done, but we will work with staff to bring back something for council in March that we would then put forward as a briefing note to support to meet the deadline that's identified by the minister. So any questions on that, council? Council D'Andrade?
Yes, it's just, Mayor, thanks for the opportunity to comment. Today we were discussing the GPA too.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is, right? It's watershed protection. It's down the watershed because we are on at the end of the watershed, but that's exactly what it is. And I think the message is obvious. We need to look at that in the context of climate change, which is, it's just because when I was proposing today, it seems that we were talking something that would be ideal, but we should not do, we cannot do. But actually, the message of the ministry is exactly the opposite. We must do it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we will carry that one forward and come through with a recommendation for council to submit our comments. And individually, people can put comments. Don't just leave it up to a collective comment. The more comments, the better. And we will put this through our newsletters and publicize this on our website as well, encouraging people to get involved and to make comment on this from across the coast. It's really an important issue for us. So. Okay, moving on. We have no bylaws, no unfinished business, no new business, no notice of motion. We'll go now to inquiries, and this is the second inquiry opportunity of the agenda.
Yes, if anyone has, oh, we see some hands up. Just one moment while I move over. Sunshine Coast Conservation Association. I'm assuming that's Suzanne Singer. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Let me try again. She moved over and then popped back onto the other side. Here she comes.
There she is. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I actually clicked stay as attendee instead of join as panelist, so that was totally me. Thanks for showing that video, Mayor Beamish. That's great. It's been a long push to finally get that result from government on the Watershed Security Fund. So it's really exciting that we're all moving forward in that direction. It's fun to be able to be excited, and I really appreciate the town of Gibsons pushing for the money piece of it, because we all know we can't do this work without funding, and it's, you know, requires a lot of money. So I had a question, and I'm actually not sure what the status of the DPA 1 to RFP, the update RFP is, because I missed the beginning of the meeting and I watched the cow meeting after the fact. So did that end up on this agenda?
No, it'll end up on the next agenda
Okay.
in March, yeah,
Okay.
or February, sorry. Yeah.
I had a question, but it's kind of a meandering one, and I hope you'll forgive me. I'll do my best. But so when I was looking at the request for proposals, one of the things that stood out for me was that you know, there's going to be a desktop review, which is important, and then of course site reconnaissance and field work. And then as I was listening to the conversation at the committee of the whole, which was a really good conversation, you know, we heard some councillors talking about the real need for the field study to get that important up-to-date information and data. Councillor Lumley was talking about, you know, the need to like update the DPA guidelines on a sort of annual basis, and how can we do that? I think, you know, everybody was talking about the money that it costs to do all these things. And the one thing that I saw that seemed like a missing piece, but might be an answer to some of those questions, was Appendix B in the RFP is really, really short list. And it's, from my perspective, it's missing some key pieces, including 2013 waterline study, you know, 2018 baseline study for Gospel Rock Covenant that we have. And that's, you know, a collective document that maybe isn't published yet, but it will be. There's this guy, which is a really important document that I don't think the town of Gibsons even has in its files, which was done by Terry McIntosh, who's like a really renowned biologist. other things like the sea change study. You know, there's just there's so much good work that's already been done that if it were to be included in that appendix, that, you know, a lot of the work wouldn't have to be done now because a lot of it's there. And then it got me thinking, you know, can you, you know, update that list?
Yeah.
You know, can I send you some examples? And if I have documents that you don't have, like, you know, working with the SCCA, there's a lot of stuff that we have that I noticed the town doesn't have because of the website update and whatever year that things got lost. So happy to share documentation with the town. But then it occurred to me, Mayor Beamish, that if the Appendix B for the RFP were beefed up and the consultants had a chance to review all that documentation, that could speed up the process, maybe make things cheaper. And also, there's an opportunity for updating those guidelines to include an appendix in the actual OCP bylaw in Part C. So if those studies were to be appended to the bylaw and they were in there, anybody who comes along looking for a DPA 1 or a DPA 2 permit, that information is going to be available to them as well. So, you know, I sort of see this opportunity for addressing, like, hitting a lot of those points by just beefing up Appendix B and then considering that as part of the review.
Forward your list on the additional documents on, and we'll run them through with our staff. And yeah, I think it'd be helpful. And also, you know, adding information to the website. I mean, just beefing up the website on so that people can have access to those materials. So we welcome that opportunity. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Beamish, we have one more request. I'm bringing over Denise.
Thank you. Denise?
Oh, hi. Hi,
Yeah.
Denise Dombrowski, 259 Glassford Road.
You're welcome.
I don't have my video running. It's just I'm working off a few screens, so
Okay.
I'm confused. So first of all, I'd like to say I'm really happy to hear that you're going to move ahead on testing the waste coming out along the seawalk there, because there has been many comments that you know, that it's toxic, and I'm sure it's not, but it would be great to have signage there. That's excellent. I'm also really thrilled that the town is going to look at the living wage, being a living wage employer. The question I have for council today is, I was noticing Beachcomber Lane, the culvert going across Charman Creek. The signage there says that it was supposed to be replaced or something done to it in 2020. And I'm just wondering where we are on that. I can't find anything on the website.
Good question. Thank you for bringing that up. I recall, wondering if that work had been done. Perhaps we can get back to you on that one, because I see our infrastructure manager is not with us now. But how about if we get back to you on that? I'd like to know the answer to that too. I know it was on the agenda to be worked on. I hated having to step over that fence and that barricade just to walk across it. So that
shame on you.
Yeah, I did. Got my dog through too. So yeah. But yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks so much. And that's all questions I have today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Okay, council. I know, Rebecca, are there any further questions?
Yes, you have one more hand raised. Donna Thomas.
Okay. Welcome, Donna.
Donna, you'll need to unmute in order to address council.
Hi.
Hi.
I tried to get an inquiry in earlier, but I pressed *6 instead of *9 and didn't get the opportunity with the first inquiry.
Thank you for staying with us.
That's okay. I was really hoping I'd get it this time, and so I did. But the earlier question, I wanted to catch the others before they left, was a question about the technology to do with the poverty reduction strategy, in which they mentioned that PovNet was very interested in the in getting people online and with some ability to have computer access, I guess. And I don't know if everybody or anybody knows who PovNet is. Does anybody there know?
I'm not sure either. Now, I see that Mayor Seegers is still with us. I don't know if Mayor Seegers would know the answer to that, but perhaps, Donna, we can look into that and get back to you.
I actually know who PovNet
Oh, you know,
is.
okay, all right. You let us know that.
I
Thank you.
wondered if anybody else knew.
No.
No, it's an organization that's been working with welfare advocates and poor people for a long, long time, and very effective, very good outfit. But I didn't want our people to miss that and not know who they were even talking about, because those people can get things done, particularly in a way of technology. My question is about Holland Lands. When we were talking about housing development, possible. I realize none of this is all just in the very beginnings. But my key question here is, would the town then become the owner of the housing units, or what? What would be the status of a complex, a housing complex, that if that turned out to be something that we would do? Does anybody know that answer?
Councillor Ladwig, go ahead.
Hi, Donna. It's Councillor Ladwig. No, none of us know at this point. The funding models haven't been developed. It's just too early to say. My guess at this point is that we probably wouldn't own the housing in the end, because we would need the revenue created by the sale of that residential component to fund the rest of the projects. But
so we wouldn't own it, and so we don't own the library building either, right?
True.
That's the argument. And the reason I'm asking these questions is I'll just get straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that any of the Holland lands should be for sale, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that as well. I don't think you're the only one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just would like to say that I believe that it wouldn't be a bad place to start to emulate some First Nations attitude towards the land, to just have that one little precious piece deemed not for sale now or any other time, because it belongs to who gave it to us, and it belongs to who's going to get it. And I think that means the community. And if it's a baby, the baby can't say, well, gee, it's okay if you sell it. Or I'm just saying it belongs. I'd like us to try and use Holland lands as an example of what it means to realize that the land doesn't belong to us. That's all. Just that one little reconciliation piece. Mm-hmm. That's my for tonight.
Thank you, Donna. You would be supportive of a lease or long-term lease of the property?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. To share the land is one thing. To sell it is another. And I know that it's not the same for us as a settler community with the kind of governances that we have. I understand we have to work with what we've got to work with, but what I'm saying is, it wouldn't hurt for us to just do one little tiny piece that says this particular piece of land is not for sale, not now or ever, just for laughs, just to say that we understand the concept is of the land not being for sale, not being ours to sell. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Donna, for your input. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, corporate officer, is there any further input?
No, Mayor Beamish, thank you. There are no further questions.
Thank you very much, then. So we're going to go on to an in-camera meeting, and for the life of me, I've got my pages all mixed up here, and I don't know where my last page is. So I'm going to ask council for resolution to adjourn this meeting to in-camera under the sections. And corporate officer, you're going to tell me, what do we?
Yes, we're closing under section A, which is information regarding a person holding an office, and section G, and I'm trying to remember which section G is. Section G is with regard to litigation, and also with regard to section 90 sub 2 sub C, which is a matter that is being investigated under the Ombudsperson Act for section 14 of that act.
Okay, thank you. I have it now, and I'm up to speed with you. So thank you very much, and thank you, members of the public, for attending and for sticking with us tonight, and for your questions, your thoughtful questions and suggestions. That's what this is all about. That we make decisions together, and we appreciate that. And sometimes that's not easy, but it does work if we respect each other in the process. So thank you, and we will adjourn now to close this meeting, and we will be coming back a little later on, but for now, we're going to send you all home. Yes, Rebecca?
You need a motion to close.
Need a motion to close. Councillor Kroll, thank you. Councillor Lumley, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. I think we're going to need a motion to extend too, but we can do that in just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Let's open the other meeting, then we'll do that beside that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Evie. Thank you, Colton, wherever you are. And guys, have a good night. Take care. Thank you. Everybody else, secure your premises, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Sorry, Rebecca, for some reason I had